This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
There you go, right on. All right, well, we wait for everybody else to jump in. Let me do some PSAs. So for anyone new to THORChain, here's a quick introduction. THORChain is a decentralized exchange that can swap Bitcoin with thousands of different cryptocurrencies, all without wrap tokens and all from your self-custody wallet. There's no KYC on THORChain, it's permissionless. The token of THORChain is RUNE, spelled R-U-N-E. And you don't have to buy or hold RUNE to place a swap on THORChain. If you want to swap on THORChain, go to THORChain.com. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll see a section called Built with THORChain. And you see all the wallets and websites that use THORChain, and you can use the interface you want to use. Also pretty cool is RUJI is building decentralized Binance on top of THORChain. So all the features and everything you're used to seeing in Binance, you're going to see in RUJI, and it's slowly being rolled out as we speak. If you hold RUNE on a centralized exchange like Binance, you should withdraw it into self-custody. They might be using it there to short sell and drive the price down on yourself. And once in self-custody,
Kenton, are you there? Maybe it's just me. Did you get rugged, buddy?
into the recording, repost a space with comments or questions. Let's try and get some virality here. And this space is aimed towards anyone in their THORChain journey, whether you're brand new or you've been here for a few years. We try to have something for everybody. So if something is too simple, be patient. If something's too complicated, be patient. We'll try to make it digestible for all of you. And yeah, are you there, Patriot?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, GrassRootsCrypto is here. You want to test your mic, Grassroots?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, can hear you. Maybe a little quiet, brother. If you could turn that volume up. But yes, I can hear you. You think we should do some introductions, Kenton?
Yeah, sure. So I'll keep going with me. My name's Kenton Ralph Toes. I've got a fund that invests in RUNE and runs nodes on THORChain. So I'm a node operator on THORChain. And yeah, over to you, Patriot.
My name, Patriot Sounds, is the moniker. My real name is Denny. I'm an educator, content creator for THORChain. Been doing this for 5 years. Love THORChain, love RUJI, love it all, guys. GrassRootsCrypto. Chris, you want to give us an introduction of yourself, sir?
Hello, everyone. My name's Chris. I do educational content, crypto education. Been in the THORChain space for quite some time. Create a lot of videos on THORChain, and I like to get into the weeds and to understand, I guess, what's happening, like actually how it works, and have a look to what's happening into the future. I think that's what keeps me excited about THORChain, with an understanding of what's happening and trying to put the pieces together and figure out what's going to happen forward.
And Chris, you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, GrassRootsCrypto, that has, like I said, many YouTube videos on THORChain. I generally try and do an update as well. The last one was a bit large, just get into more of the details of what's happened in THORChain and what's going to happen, what's on the roadmap, and how that works. Just trying to add a bit more context and compact the information into one spot, because it is hard to keep up.
It is very hard, and you do a fantastic job. So like anyone listening, if you're wanting to look more into THORChain, kind of go below surface level and try to understand more how it works, it's a beast. And Chris does a fantastic job at taming that beast for you. Like every technical aspect of THORChain, he's got a video for it, and he walks you through the technical. Like and I mean, you must have what, I don't know, 100 videos by now. Like it's amazing how much content you have there. But you've covered everything as far as I know, right?
Pretty much. Perhaps the new stuff I'd need to get into.
Yeah.
I want to get more into the how the RUJI is working in with THORChain. I did one on trade, but there's probably more to do there.
Well, let's kick off the space end. So the way this space came up is in Discord. You posted some updates and features that are on the horizon that you're excited about and want to talk about. And so where do you want to start? Which new feature do you want to get into here?
Yeah, so when I was doing my own video, I was going through it and I'm like, there are some pretty cool features here. I don't think they're, perhaps talked about as much. Chad did talk about some of these cool features in the last space, which I hadn't heard. And then there's some cool stuff coming up. So I've kind of tried to group them into specific parts, and I think that way there's perhaps going to be something for everyone. And I thought we might start with node operators and security improvements, which is probably something you like, Kenton.
Sure.
And then we can, just go through node operations, swap efficiencies and Memo improvements, which is all about improving the layer one. Like when THORFi was going on, everyone's like, oh, we should just be concentrating on the base layer, improving swaps. So there's some pretty cool changes that are doing that. And then we'll go through some of the provisions for the app layer that are happening. So the base layer changes in order to support some of the things that are going to be done on the app layer.
Cool. Let's start with the node stuff.
Sure. So the first one is to put your node into maintenance mode. And I'd like to ask you, Kenton, what your thoughts are. It's where you're an active node operator, you need to do some maintenance. So you can kind of like go, it's not churn out, but just sort of like hit the pause button where you're not going to get slashed because you need to do some maintenance.
I think that's fantastic.
Something that you use? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I should be clear, Chris. I'm working with Liquify, so I'm not the human being actually operating the node. So that, yeah, I'm working with the Liquify team. So it's Andy. Andy is the actual human operating the node for us.
Okay, cool.
I got a question on that.
Yeah.
If you let's say, can there be a problem? This is totally far-fetched, but what if you had one Asgard vault and more than 33% of the nodes were in maintenance mode? What would they be able to sign transactions, receive assets?
Yeah, that is a good question. That is a check question. Because like if you could have it where they're in maintenance mode where they're not necessarily like getting all the observations, it would see whether that would extend to fail to do a key signing. Because yeah, if you didn't have 33% of the nodes for a specific Asgard vault able to do key signing, then obviously you can't sign an outbound. In which case it would just revert to another vault. So the outbound would still occur. It would just be an issue with that vault until the consensus is reformed.
Oh, I'm just having these thoughts on my mind. My thought that just immediately came to my mind is like, what if we just had like this bug or something that was causing nodes to get slashed, and they didn't want to get slashed, right? So would it be a potential problem if just a majority of nodes like, well, I don't want to get slashed, I'm just going to go into maintenance mode? Would that possibly seize up the protocol? Or I could be exaggerating the effect, but that's what my mind immediately went to.
I don't know, but I'll find out.
Okay, sorry. Come strong with the question. Continue, good sir.
That was a great question, man.
Yeah. I'll be messaging Chad or whoever.
But the intention, though, the idea is that like the intent of that update is so a node doesn't have to churn out. They can stay in the network, do whatever maintenance they want, and then turn themselves back on. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, because obviously you have to wait for a churn. You can't leave the active validator set just on willy-nilly. You have to wait until the network churn occurs. So if you have to do some minor maintenance, I don't know, take something offline, increase some memory, increase some storage, then you have that option if it's going to be a short-term maintenance thing, as opposed to I need to go offline and rebuild my server.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's great because we don't. I mean, I appreciate the need. I appreciate the value in rotating, the nodes, keeping it fresh. But I mean, at the same time, it's a lot of work and effort to get a node into the network. Get the bomb providers, keep an eye on things, whatever. And if you have to constantly pull the node out to do stuff, that can be, it's a real distraction. And it's not. Is it really adding any value to THORChain by kicking you out? I don't think so. We want to keep you in, right? So.
Yeah. The next one is to delete node Mimirs. So like we've seen this a lot where we're adding to chains and stuff where there's all these different Mimirs created, and it can be confusing, or duplicates confusing. So node operators have the ability to do that, which really helps governance. It helps understand what's happening, understand what the node operators are voting on, and to ensure that we're all looking at the right value.
So yeah, well, if you vote -1, is it just like, what does it show as -1, or it just erases your vote as if you didn't vote at all yet, type thing?
It erases your vote. It also caters for the people that I voted incorrectly. I fat fingered, so I can remove my vote and then vote again.
Okay, gotcha. Is there? I'm just trying to think, because if somebody voted fat fingered or voted wrong, isn't there always a status quo vote? Or I guess I'm just trying to think. Yeah, no, it's fine. Never mind. Yeah. Do you think? I assume this has happened enough times. That's why it's been proposed and put into the code. There's been enough requests by nodes to do this. I hope nothing has been approved inadvertently because somebody couldn't remove their vote. Has that happened?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't believe so. Yeah, I don't think we've had that problem, thankfully.
So the code base would generally look at one version of this Mimir, let's say the quote unquote correct one. But it has been the case where the wrong Mimir key has been put out and people have been voting on that. And then it's just like, that's the wrong one. And then there's duplicates and you look at it and you're like, which is the right one? It's confusing.
Oh, like a spelling mistake, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, so we can
dash without a dash.
Okay, and so we can erase that spelling mistake Mimir vote. So we can vote -1. That'll make it disappear.
Well, at least you'll vote for it, because at least you'll vote for it. So then you can walk these things out, or also you can say, well, I'm voting for this chain. Actually, I've decided to change my mind now. I'm not going to vote for this chain, and that would then remove it, your vote. Okay.
I noticed somebody voted the slip min basis points spelled it wrong. So for that node, can they go and vote -1, and then that'll remove that vote for that slip, that spelling mistake? That won't show up anymore going forward? Or would they have to do -5 or -8? I can't remember they voted 5 or 8. Would they have to do -5 or -8 to?
It has to be a -1. Is
-1.
What the code says there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then it deletes, as it says there, all nodes, when all nodes delete votes, it removes the key. So all the nodes have to have reversed that if they put that in.
So even though the spelling mistake was made, all nodes would have to vote -1 on that spelling mistake to remove it?
Yeah, because like, if you got 3 nodes that voted for that, then those 3 nodes would need to reverse it, because those, Mimir is just a string. So it votes for whatever this string, whatever the value is. So it has to be voted for the correct one for the code change to take effect. to say, like, if we have a consensus, there's more than 2/3 that vote for this particular value, then we'll consider that approved.
Okay, but so
it's not going to consider spelling mistakes or anything.
yeah, so only the 3 that have made the spelling mistake. It's only the 3 that need to correct it to have it go away, to remove it. Okay, gotcha. That's good. Cool. There was another one. Do you remember what it is? The spelling mistake? I want to say it's like a year and a half ago. I forget.
I remember the event, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah, it was like just a little off, and everyone was so confused. So
yeah,
this is a welcome change.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. What's next on
to
your
the
list,
next one?
Chris?
Yeah.
We talked about this. Well, this was talked about last time. The TVL scaling, the dynamic TVL scaling. So the security posture has gone through some changes, and going from like the top 2/3 and then like effective security and that type of stuff. So now it's the total active bond, and then there's a percentage scaling factor on top of that as well. So that is what controls the emissions of liquidity to the network. So whether you can add more or swapped from an asset where the outbound is going to be held by the network. So that's say swapping to L1 Bitcoin through to secured asset Bitcoin. So that gives node operators the control to increase or even to decrease the TVL cap, which I think is pretty good. It gives a lot of more control and optionality for the node operators to adjust that security posture.
So maybe we can just let's maybe rewind a bit for somebody who's not familiar with it. So originally how was THORChain designed? The security posture on THORChain. What was the design? How much money or how much RUNE do we have to have bonded versus in the pools?
As generally, you wanted it was 2/3 RUNE to bond, because you've got obviously 1/3 of the RUNE inside of the pool. But essentially, you wanted if we take the total pooled value, you want to double that in RUNE, in RUNE bond. So that was kind of like the nice incentive pendulum equilibrium.
And so, the idea was if you had $1 of RUNE in the pools, $2 of RUNE bonded in nodes, that meant in the pool you actually had there's $2 of value in the pool. You had $1 RUNE, $1 of crypto, so it's $2 total in the pools, and then you had $2 total in the bonds. So if somebody were to steal
$4,
pardon,
$4. So if you had $2 worth in the pool, you want $4 in bond.
$4 in bond, and then so if somebody if the nodes stole the crypto from the pools, you're using $4 to steal $2. Sorry, $4 to steal $1. Because you're going to lose $4 from your bond to steal $1 of crypto. Is that the idea?
Yeah, because the thing is, if the assumption would be if you steal from the network, RUNE goes to 0. So that's why your bond is then essentially lost. You don't really care as a node operator, the actual value inside the pool, the RUNE value inside of the pool. But yeah, to steal that crypto, it's not economically feasible.
And so the cap and the TVL is always to try and keep the crypto value lower than the bond value. So at any given time, nodes would lose more in bond, more dollars worth of bond than they could steal from crypto. That's the idea of the TVL cap, right?
Yes. So to ensure that, it doesn't go bananas, and the incentive pendulum will allow some variation, but you never wanted more pooled value, so that what's in the pool the value of that to exceed what's bonded.
And now, sorry.
So additionally, back in the day, there was these Yugoslav vaults, which is kind of like what they call fast vaults, that node operators would hold and have the keys to, so they could legitimately, very easily, steal crypto from the network, and the bond would be an incentive not to do that.
Now those Yugoslav vaults, they're gone, and so we're just okay. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. But now we're relaxing the TVL cap on the network to allow more crypto in the pools relative to the bond size, right?
Well, it depends on your time frame. So, if you go back all the way to the beginning, you could say it's going back to the same, because at the moment it's the total pooled value, and that's how THORChain started off. But over time, it went to less and less. So the amount of, you needed essentially more in the bond in order to secure the pools, or put it another way, what was considered security got reduced, if that makes sense. So then that impacts the incentive pendulum. So now this resets the security posture to the way it was before. But the difference is, instead of total pooled now, you've also included the vaulted security, which includes like the trade assets and the secured assets.
Okay, but this is so the TVL dynamic setting, the TVL cap dynamic setting. Right now, it's set back to the same posture that THORChain had when it launched, basically. But it could be, this setting is in place so that it can be tweaked further. That if we want to relax it even more, we can. Or if we want to make it more strict, we can, right? That's the whole point of this new feature, is that we can dynamically change it, right?
Yep. Yes. Basically, we take the total pooled, and then you've got a percentage that you can increase it. So at the moment it's 1. So you're just timesing it by 1. So it's the same thing. Then you could times it by 1.5 or 0.95. So that way you can increase or decrease what is considered security. And then that affects the addition to the network. So if it's over that, then no more funds can be added to the network.
So if it's set at 1 right now, the total TVL can equal the amount, the dollar amount bonded, right?
I have to check the code on that. I think that would be the max. The max.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because before it was the bottom 2/3 of the bond was the TVL cap, and then we changed it to the whole value, the all of the bonded RUNE.
Yeah, it's a helper function, and then when you're doing add or you're swapping to or some other stuff, it just goes to check to see whether or not the total pooled value or the vaulted security in RUNE value has to be less than the total or the security posture, in this case the total bonded, and if it's going to exceed, then it says, oh no, you can't add any more to the network. Yeah, and you're right, before it was the effective security, which was a very conservative posture.
And so, the idea of putting this in is that there's been lots of talk about relaxing the hard cap further. So maybe we'd want to change it. Maybe there's a desire or interest to change it to 2, which means you could have 2 times the TVL value relative to the bond value, and basically have more crypto in the pools than what is being secured by the bonds. And that's, there's no plan or anything like that, but that's possible at some point, right?
Yeah, and that from a node point of view, you'll just vote on TVL cap basis points Mimir and you change that to whatever you want.
And
so it's
sorry.
Yep.
I was saying, and the push for this was app layer, right? Is that, in order for us to scale secured assets, we need to rethink the security policy, security stance on THORChain, and it was decided to look at starting to relax the hard cap at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, and that allows the node operators to do that, to say, oh, well, we want to go to 120%, 150, or whatever the case may be. They can, discuss, come to a consensus, and then vote on that. and then that takes the decision making or the process away from the devs. It's all then in the hands of the node operators.
So what's your take on it? It's been a kind of a contentious subject over the last few months. You think it's okay? You should relax it, open it wide open? No, you think we need to keep it strict and tight? Where do you fall?
That's a good question. Obviously things have changed in THORChain since it first came out. The bonds there to secure the assets, so node operators can't rug, obviously, the liquidity in the network because they have control over the Asgard vault. It's probably definitely got a bit too conservative in my opinion. And with the sharding, the 6 Asgard vaults, it makes it incredibly difficult to get 2/3 of any one node, because when you're churning, you don't control what vault you're assigned to. So from that point of view, I can see the case for it being relaxed. However, I don't think it should be open slather. I don't think it should be going nuts. It should be like a careful and considered step upwards, understanding that there's a fine line between allowing enough room for security, or now allowing enough room for the app layer, as well as ensuring that there's sufficient security or deterrent to attack the network.
So are you saying, if I'm understanding you right, you think at some level, at some amount, at some value of crypto, it would become worth it to try to steal it, whether from an outsider or insider. But if it's kept low enough, you're basically just de-incentivizing anybody to try and pull it off. It's not big enough to try. Am I understanding you right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I think it keeps it more in check. Again, I think the ability to collude and to get 2/3 of the network is extremely low, because you don't, like, if you went and bought a whole bunch of RUNE, like, I don't know, $100 million worth of RUNE, and you churned in, you started up all these nodes. I mean, everyone would know, and you churned in, you would need more. You would need to probably own half the network to try and get a third, or you would have to own well over half the network to own 2/3 of any one vault, because you're randomly selected amongst those vaults. And there's also code that says that if you're from the same node operator address, it's deliberately going to distribute you into different vaults. So I think it's with the sharding, with the 6 vaults, I feel that makes it much more secure, because you can't get, you have to buy a significant amount of the network, like well over 2/3, in order to try and get 2/3 in any one Asgard vault.
What about inside, like, existing node operators though? You don't think there's a chance of them breaking bad? Or maybe they are bad, they're just waiting for their opportunity. Right, in theory, we don't know each other.
There's always that possibility. There's always that possibility, and that's why you would want to step it up, I think, gradually as required. And then, how much you do it would obviously then be on the demand for the app layer. Like, you would want to do that in response to something. But it's one of those things. It's always a risk. And what I like, again, with the sharding thing is, if someone does collude and they take a vault, they're not taking everything, as opposed to everything in one Asgard vault. So you kind of like, you start to mitigate your losses if that were to occur.
So what about, there's been talk about, with updates to TSS, the possibility of moving to one giant Asgard vault, one giant 66 and 99 type thing. Do you think that would actually be a bit worse to go to that one giant vault? Do you think it's actually better to keep the multiple Asgard vaults as it is?
I think trying to get 2/3 of one vault's much harder. But for the reasons I discussed, I like the sharding. I think there's pros and cons either way.
Cool.
The sharding was done because to increase the nodes, I think above 36 in a single chain chaos net through to 120, it just wasn't feasible using TSS. So that's why they're sharded to enable outbounds to happen very fast and replace those Yugo-Sol vaults. You couldn't do it in its current with current TSS under 1 volt.
Got it.
So,
Patriot,
I want to be, because I was actually going to ask the very same question, Kenton. Okay, I just want to make sure you clear what you said. If you had 1 vault, 1 big vault, it would technically be easier or harder than if you had 6 vaults? Because I would think it'd be harder if there was multiple vaults. Am I wrong about that?
You would need, from my opinion, you would need more, much more capital to get 2/3. You basically need to buy 2/3 of the network. But obviously, if you were to do that, you can take the entire vault.
Right.
Whereas
there's no more random allocation. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. Whereas if you got 6, then to get 2/3, like, through a lottery system, you have to buy, I don't know, like 80% of the network to try and get into, because it's a game, like randomized, to try and get statistically to get into 2/3 of any 1 volt or 2 volts or 3 volts.
Okay.
So I think that way it makes it harder.
Okay, so let's get at this from another angle. Let's say you had 1 vault. Are you, GrassRootsCrypto, Chris, are you worried that we could have a bug that resulted in a vault sending out assets erroneously, right? We get tricked or whatever. We only have 1 vault. We have, isn't there more security if we have multiple vaults in case there's some terrible bug and 1 Asgard vault sends a lot of assets out? Not supposed to do that. And somehow the solvency checker is tricked. I don't know. This is beyond my understanding. Are you worried about that or not?
Now that exploit, that possibility exists now, because if there's an Asgard vault that fails to sign, it just moves on to the next one. So that process would happen irrespective.
Right, but if okay, my question is, if there's 1 vault, isn't like a more of a chance for the liquidity to get rugged in 1 event, rather if it was just dispersed over like 6 vaults or 4 vaults or whatever? You see what I'm saying? So is that like redundancy in protection for the network? Or am I not understanding you correctly?
I think with regards to could is 6 volts versus 1 volt, more drainable? I'd say that given the way the network is and the way that falls over to different volts, it's kind of like it's the same, because it's the network logically is 1 volt. You can think of it as 1 volt. It just happens to be 6 physical volts under the hood for technical reasons.
Okay.
Now,
so code wise, it'd be the same. It's kind of irrespective. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kenton.
Keep going, Patriot. I was just going to add that Chris mentioned a node operator using this. If somebody's running multiple nodes and they use the same node operator address, those nodes are split evenly amongst those vaults. So let's say there's somebody like me running 6 nodes. I'm using the same node operator address. All my 6 nodes wouldn't go into 1 vault. They are purposely split between all 6 different vaults. And so the idea there is that if somebody is, kind of wants to signal that they're trying to help protect the network, they're purposely splitting up their nodes into other vaults, one to make it harder for themselves to steal. And then if they're doing that, then in theory, they're altruistic, trying to help the network. And so they're happy to act as defense in the other vaults too. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you're right. As far as I understand, what my brain does is I just look for a potential like attack vector. Like if you go to 1 vault, it increases efficiency of the network dramatically. As long as there's no, this is where it's hard. Like I understand THORChain, but then when you go like mediumly underneath the surface and get into the guts, that's where I get a little insecure because as a non-dev, my understanding of the behaviorism of the code might be a little lacking. So like one thing I want to just, maybe it's redundant for me to ask a question. I just want to ask like, if I could wave a wand right now, Grassroots, and we could go to one vault tomorrow with all the, all the code base changes are needed, you wouldn't see an additional security risk from doing that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay,
see any
then
massive security risk in saying, oh, I wouldn't say one vault is insecure. I wouldn't be saying that.
okay, that's what came to my mind. So I trust your judgment on that. So this is definitely, then I don't see a reason why we wouldn't go in this direction then, right? Like this should be the goal. Like, because Chad Bareford, when we on the last thing, he said, well, we can think about going to one vault. He said, I'm not sure. And I wish I would ask him, what are you not sure about? Because I didn't know if there was like some potential risk there or not. But as far as I can tell, based on what you say, there really is no reason, given my understanding, that we should not pursue that goal to make the network as efficient and as quick as possible.
Yeah, look, with the 2-second block times, some of the stuff that's already been done, and DKLS, which is already used in Voltisig, then yeah, absolutely possible. It can go very short. The block time is with regards to the cycles required in order to churn outbounds. But then it's a question of, hey, why don't we distribute the attack surface or distribute the network? But that's a very in the weeds type of question.
I think,
right, okay.
Patriot, I think the reason we have Asgard vaults as it is today is because TSS, you have more nodes in a vault. It's slower to sign, to come up with all the signers. I think that's why it's split up into smaller. Remember we used to have 40 nodes per Asgard vault. Then it was dropped down to 20, and I'm pretty sure the reasoning was to make things faster, to increase swap time or decrease swap time.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
It was when we had the Yggdrasil vaults with the fast vaults. This is back in maybe start of Castnet, because we did the same thing in single chain Castnet. Then it was like, we can't really go beyond a certain node limit because using one vault, because the outbounds will happen too quick. Will happen too slowly. And that's where Yggdrasil vaults will come in, because they were just like normal multi-chain vaults that node operators would control. So then it was like, well, if we split the Asgard vaults into 6, and basically we would create it for every 20 nodes, we create a new vault. So there's like a formula. Nodes divided by 20 is how many votes you have. So then if we did that, then we could remove the Yggdrasil vaults and ensure that we've got some good processing time for outbounds. There's a ticket on GitLab that has this, where it's all detailed on that process. I could probably find it if anyone really wants.
Okay, so let me play with that a little bit. So yes, 20 nodes to a vault. So if we go to 121 volts, then we would have 7 Asgard vaults. Let's just say that happens, right? Let's just say we increase them all. Like, what effect would you, like, maybe you don't have the numbers in front of you, but if you just had to take an educated guess, like, how would that affect the network if that happened next churn? Would it get like 20% slower, or you have any idea what would happen?
Kind of the same thing as going from 5 to 6. Like, there should be no difference. It's just that then your 121 is going to be evenly distributed amongst the 7. That's all. There's no performance increases or anything like that. So then,
okay, so maybe. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Okay, so I think I've been on a misimpression. I thought there was some limit with the amount of Asgard vaults that we could have that affects, because of all the different signing between. Am I wrong about that? Maybe it's something I've just not misunderstood.
No, as my understanding is, it's Cosmos, because you've got 2 parts. You've got the Cosmos SDK and that consensus, and then you have the TSS, the Asgard vaults. Now, with Tendermint, although we're on Cosmos BFT or whatever it's called, at least with Tendermint, there's a quadratic increase in performance when you add a node to the network. So the more nodes you add to the network, the more performance hit there is on the THORChain blockchain. This is irrespective of the Asgard vaults. So you could grow the Asgard vaults, this is how I understand it, as many times as you want. Like, it doesn't matter, you get 50. But it's a Cosmos chain issue that they wanted, at least with Entendlement, which we did upgrade in version 50, that you can't just continually add nodes to the network indefinitely. I think Cosmos, like itself, I think it's gone out to 250 from memory, and that was a while ago, the most. So, you know, theoretically, you could go a little bit more, but there are performance limits for the, you know, the THORChain blockchain itself, just to be adding nodes. So, you know, reducing block time, reducing the efficiency, upgrading, and I forget the Cosmos technology. It's in an article released late last year. That would all help improve the performance aspects for the Cosmos chain, the THORChain blockchain, in order to move to more amount of nodes.
Got it. Okay, thank you for correcting my ignorance on that. Kenton, did you have anything?
No, it's good.
Maybe we should move on to the next topic then?
Yeah, we probably beat that subject to death. But thank you, Chris. So what's next on your list, Chris?
I'll just say that the TVL cap is independent to the incentive pendulum, which has kind of like a revenue cap. So if you're going like all the way to liquidity providers or node operators, there's going to be some doc updates on this, but that's independent of the TVL cap. So you could have nodes getting all the rewards. If the TVL is good, then it would still allow additions to the networks and kind of vice versa. So and I talked about last time, the incentive pendulum controls revenue. It doesn't control the cap, whereas the TVL cap factor obviously controls the addition of liquidity to the network.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say on that front. If that, we can move on, I guess, if there's something else.
With regards to TVL cap, so just a quick one, native assets are excluded from the TVL cap. So obviously RUNE is not counted. Tor, TCY, RUJI, and the switch assets. I'm wondering if that makes sense, and whether you guys you're comfortable with that idea, because obviously they're native assets on the THORChain blockchain. So that change was to say that, well, we shouldn't include this inside of the TVL.
Yeah, I think we should break this down. So I think this is one of the hardest things for people to understand about THORChain, how it works. You know, I'm always, you know, the peanut gallery is always talking about, you know, all these other proof of stake blockchains. It's really easy to stake and you know, or bond their tokens. You know, why is THORChain security posture like this? You know, why is it so hard to bond your RUNE, all this kind of stuff? It's because THORChain is securing external assets, external cryptos, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever. So if the THORChain nodes got together, stole all the Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's theirs. They keep it. It's their bearer assets. But if in part of that theft they steal RUNE, Tor, TCY, RUJI, tokens that are native to THORChain, those tokens go to zero, right? Because, you know, THORChain's been compromised, right? So anything THORChain native all goes to zero, and so this is why these native tokens are not part of the TVL cap, because it doesn't make sense to steal them. So it's like, this is why it's frustrating. People compare THORChain to Ethereum, and they say, well, you know, Ethereum has all this TVL and it's way more than what the nodes have, and blah, blah, blah. Well, if all the Ethereum nodes got together and stole the stable coins, for example, they wouldn't get any. Like Circle and Tether would just refuse to exchange those coins into dollars. So those stable coins are not bearer assets. if the Ethereum node stole all the ERC20s, all the meme coins and everything, right? All the NFTs, they're worthless. Who are they going to sell them to? They can't, because no one's going to use Ethereum, because it's all been compromised, it's all stolen. So they could keep wrapped Bitcoin, right? Because they would control that contract, and whatever Bitcoin is wrapped, or in any other bridges and whatnot, they'd be able to keep those cryptos, because those are external assets and bearer assets. They would keep those, but those are a tiny fraction relative to the amount of Ethereum staked on nodes. So that's why this conversation keeps coming up on THORChain about the security posture. How do we secure billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin without somebody stealing it? And so but bringing it back to these native assets, if RUJI has $1 billion market cap one day, and the THORChain nodes decide to try and steal RUJI, well, it's pointless. It goes to zero, because RUJI goes to zero, because THORChain and RUJI has been compromised. So does it make sense to include native tokens in THORChain in its security posture? Did I summarize that good, guys? Do you have anything to add to that? Did I get anything wrong?
No, I think you nailed it, man. I think exogenous assets is the one thing that sets THORChain apart. You know, these are real layer one assets. It's real layer one going from layer one to layer one, right? So that's the treasure, you know? And so it's you have to have the security posture. We've had to put a lot of thought into the security posture just so we don't make a terrible mistake, because if we make a terrible mistake, then those assets are gone and they are on the layer one, and there's nothing you can do. I totally agree. We got someone requesting to come up. Awesome. Okay, looks like we got 13 heavens. Did you want to say something, Chris? I saw your mic unmute there.
No, I agree with that. I think it's totally legit. You know, one of the starting off assumptions is that if you hack RUNE goes to zero, so it's worthless. So you know that would then apply to the other native assets. If you hack THORChain and hack RUNE, obviously RUJI is going to be suffer, and vice versa. So kind of like everything that's native, it kind of falls in the same boat. So if something happens to any of that, then obviously those assets are kind of zeroed. So therefore, there's no point securing them.
Right. And you know, I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but this is why, like, in my heart, like, I know it's okay if we stay at 120 for a while, but I'm people know I'm a permabull. Like, I really believe in THORChain. I really believe in Rujira. I think we have the most amazing developer team probably ever. I mean, it's incredible. And the community itself, everyone listening to this, you're all wonderful. But that's kind of why I feel like the success can get really crazy. And I just want us to be able to get that node operator count relatively high. I mean, it may be the case, as Chris says, like, it's not really feasible to steal the network given the amount we have, but I would just like to make it as hard as humanly possible to make this infrastructure that's just rock solid, set in stone, just absolutely immutable, right? And trusted by everyone, because they just know how much thought and how robust the system is. That's kind of where I go. 13 Heavens, you have your hand up. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for letting me up. I missed the first little bit, so I don't know if you guys already covered this, but you guys were detailing like the security budget and how to potentially increase that. I love the idea of making RUJI bondable. Like, could you imagine that? Like, with the lower supply, we could really reignite the bond wars, and we could see $2-3 million bonds, even if we can't get the node count up. I just think that's like a interesting way to reinvigorate the bond wars.
Can we play with that idea? How do you imagine that? So a node operator would both be able to accept RUJI and RUNE, essentially?
Yeah, exactly. Like I personally, I would kind of do it how Maya is doing the staked cacao pools. So like, if you stake your cacao to the staked pools, you can bond that like an LP unit. So it would be pretty much exactly the same. I'm pretty sure staked RUJI is already tokenized. If it's not, that's not a huge lift. And then since it's a native asset, it's pretty much the same security assumptions as RUNE. So I don't think it would be too complicated for people to understand, and it would just allow for a huge amount of tokens to flow into bonding, and I think that would probably incentivize the node operators to kind of consolidate their nodes into bigger bonds to stay competitive. And like on top of that, the vast majority of RUJI, if not all of the RUJI, is held by Web3 natives, right? That's not the case for RUNE. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but a very significant portion is held by career traders on centralized exchanges, and that's essentially never going to be bonded, or it's going to take a lot of work to get that bonded. But RUJI, on the other hand, I could imagine if we make it bondable, we could see 30 or 40% of the RUJI supply bonded within like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
That's an interesting point. And you guys, there is something called Rune Bond listening to this space right now. Go ahead and throw them a follow, because if that happens, they're going to be all over that. But that I think that's actually a very good point, that since RUJI is not listed on a SEX, it's all out there floating, and it could be onboarded rather rapidly, and we could get a significant percentage of it. What do you think, Chris?
I know that doing direct, well, in the discussions I've had, doing direct RUJI bond wasn't on the cards. However, I think after like proposal 6, in amongst that, there was the discussion of doing bondable LP units, which is exactly what my chain does. And then in order to get a greater capital efficiency, add to the bond and that type of stuff. So I know that's, and then that way it works for every asset. So it's not just RUJI, it's going to work for any pool that's on the network could be added to as bond. Or maybe they'll select it, whatever. But that's definitely been thought about. It's just not something I've seen on the, say, on the short to medium term roadmap.
Yeah, LP bonding is like super cool. It allows for greater capital efficiency. The only hard part about that is most people want like for like gains with no impermanent loss. And that's what we're seeing at Maya. Like the amount of people who are willing to bond an LP unit is much smaller than the amount of people willing to bond just a single asset. And I think how we're doing it at Maya is, I think it's something along the lines of half of the bonded cacao counts against versus an LP bond. So like that's how we're trying to keep people incentivized to keep providing a bond through LP units versus just cacao. But it's like an interesting thought. And like, yeah, I could imagine reigniting the bond wars that way, even if we can't double the node count.
Kenton, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about this. If anything? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. You can go ahead.
No, certainly something that could potentially be adopted. I'd want to see RUJI kind of the app layer mature, all the services come online, and see how that goes. Because then you're going to get the market's reaction and perception of the asset as well, in a more of a mature context. I'd like to see that happen first.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's probably too early to jump on that today, but it's nice to have the discussion, just so people can be excited about one more thing. And there's so much to be excited about.
Kenton, do you have something? Your mic's unmuted.
No, I'm happy to keep going.
Okay, all right. Okay, Chris, do you want to go on the next one there?
Yeah, I just want to move into swap efficiency and Memo improvements. And there's 4 things here to talk about. The first one was, I don't know whether you heard about the Bifrost refactor, big refactor to batch Attestations. That if you can think about UTXO batching, where if we're going to send a whole bunch of Bitcoin out, and we just say we've got 10 transactions to send out, this is what centralized exchanges do. Rather than send 10 individual Bitcoin transactions, what we can do is batch them into one transactions with like multiple outputs. That's much more efficient. You might wait a little bit and wait until all the transactions come, but it's much more efficient, a lot less gas. You get it all in one hit. There's much less block space, and obviously it's one transaction instead of 10. So within Bifrost, when observations come in at the moment, like every observation triggers a observation message through to THORChain, like from Bifrost over this thing called the THORChain bridge, and then THORChain then consumes it. So what this does is batch these observations from Bifrost to say, okay, we've received these 3 Bitcoin transactions and these Ethereum transactions. We batch it up and tell THORChain once instead of doing individual messages, which is much more efficient. So I thought that was a really cool change that allows for more. Well, it reduces the noise, what's known as the gossip between the nodes, because they all have to talk and agree on these observations. And it also allows for more observations to be observed in any one period because there's a lot less noise. So then this particular change that's already in things like last release, or 2 releases ago, is what allows for 2-second block times, because there's a lot less work being done by the nodes to agree, observe, and send all that information to THORChain.
So so without the batch transactions, that actually makes the block times longer?
No, it reduces the amount of messages. These are the Cosmos internal messages that are occurring within the network in order to agree on external observations. So the good thing is, like, good example, if you've come home and you've got someone said there's a tree fell down on the street, right? You may not believe them. If you've got everyone, like 20 people, everyone on the street telling you a tree fell down, you're probably going to believe them, right? That's how the Bifrost works with its observations. It says, well, one node says, I observed a Bitcoin transactions, and then tells THORChain, then say 120, or we've got 119 nodes at the moment. Just say 119 nodes says, we saw this Bitcoin transaction, and tells THORChain, THORChain's going to believe it, because really THORChain itself has no view, understanding, context of the Bitcoin blockchain or what happened on an external chain. So that's where it uses Bifrost to tell it what's happening on external chains, not only which is really cool, not only from an inbound perspective, but also on an outbound perspective. So every outbound that goes out, just say swapping Bitcoin to Ethereum, that Ethereum outbound is observed, and then we tell THORChain about it, and then THORChain says, was that outbound authorized? So you've got observations happening inbound and outbound. So then this reduces the load that happens during those observations.
So is the length, the time of one block is determined by how long it takes the nodes to make all these observations? So if it's taking them less time to make the observations, then the block time is quicker?
I don't know what sets the block time. I know there's a lot of internal processing. I know that it reduces the amount of, processing that happens. There is a constant that says how many blocks per year. So I think that might be the one.
And we just kind of squeeze as much as we can into each block. And
yeah.
Okay.
Because in the PR for 2-second block times, they were overriding those constants that determined how many blocks per year and like how many blocks per hour and stuff like that. They'll override those constants to adjust to the 2-second block time.
Okay, so batch transactions will help make things faster. Will it also help make it cheaper? If we're just doing one, instead of 10 transactions going to the Bitcoin network, we're only sending one. We'll be paying way less mining fees, right? So, or yes or no?
Yeah, the reserve pays less.
Yeah.
Yes, on gas.
So would it make those savings? Is it just who's going to benefit from the savings? Would the protocol then make a bit extra money? Do we pass the savings on to the swappers? Yeah.
That is a good question. Well, for this, there's no savings. It's more efficient, but because they're Cosmos messages that are happening internally within the network, it's nothing to do with the user. Whereas UTXO batch outbounds is that's happened previously. That is where the gas cost is saved. So this doesn't change gas because they're internal messages within the THORChain blockchain.
So it sounds like the savings would go to THORChain. The protocol would make a bit extra money doing this.
Yeah, sorry. So when we talked about gas stuff, this doesn't affect inbound and outbound gas costs. Sorry, it's just internal messaging. We're reducing the amount of internal messaging required when observation's happening. So therefore, you could say it's an efficiency gain. It's quite a large efficiency gain internally within the network and reduces the noise, which is obviously then increasing the potential capacity for the network to do more within a smaller space.
Are these gossip attestations, are they related to the churn too? So does this help make the churn easier as well?
Yeah, because when you do a migrate, you're moving assets from one vault to another vault with a migrate memo. So yeah, I'd say yes, not having all the details, because there's external movements of assets when a churn happens.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, that sounds like a solid. I mean, basically, to make it as dumb as possible. I mean, like THORChain is getting leaner and meaner. You know what I mean? We can do more. We get more efficient. You know what I mean? It's like we're losing some weight. We can do more, making better decisions. So, I think that's one hell of an upgrade. I mean, when you put all the things that you're talking about so far, Chris, and lump them together, I mean, THORChain's it's already friggin' cool, but it's going up a few levels here. I mean, there's the synergistic relationship between all these things is just incredible.
Yeah, well, this is where, we all talked about, we've got to focus on the base layer, make the base layer right. These are the changes that are focusing on the base layer and getting the base layer good, laying it down. And as Chad's talked about, I mean, this was designed around in the 2018, came in a single chain chaos, not 2019. This is kind of like some of the technology that was out at the time. So now we have the opportunity to upgrade and enhance based off today's technology.
Okay. This is where I have to learn about the app layer, man. I watched your video on the app layer, and very helpful, but still, it's a beast. So does the app layer? Because I know it's like from the way it's been described from what I remember from Primac Monarchy, it's like it's almost like a separate chain on top that has the same blockchain as THORChain. Does that add any computational load that's serious on THORChain's end, or did I just completely botch that explanation?
Probably a simpler way to think about it is you can picture the Ethereum blockchain, and then the Ethereum blockchain enables the deployment of a smart contract. So then you're thinking of the two levels. You've got the Ethereum blockchain itself and a smart contract that lives on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very helpful.
So up until, I don't know, start of the year, everything in THORChain was only equivalent to only the Ethereum blockchain. So we're making changes to the Ethereum blockchain itself, e.g. the THORChain blockchain. And there was never a smart contract. So what the V50 and quasi-wasm and all of that enables is the ability for a smart contract to be deployed on top of THORChain. And then that is it. The interaction from the smart contract to THORChain is the same interaction as any other wallet UI or anything like that. So that's all we're doing. Think about it as this is like Ethereum deploying a smart contract for the first time. It's a THORChain deploying smart contracts on top of itself for the first time, instead of trying to do everything in the base layer.
Got it. That makes sense to me. Okay. Did either one of you gentlemen have something else for Chris on that one, or should we move to the next one?
No, I'm happy to keep going. I think it's just kind of echo what you said, Patriot. Is for me is especially over the years staying, following THORChain, there's always these small constant improvements. It's always happening. It's not like, Chris, you mentioned since THORFi, the focus on the base layer. It's not like there hasn't been updates and tweaks in the past either. Like there's a renewed focus now, sure, but there's always been ongoing updates like this, and it's always great. And I just can't help but feel like it's just going to pay dividends for THORChain in the long run. Just constantly, slowly, just making things better here and there, And one day, it's just like, working out for 6 months. You're gonna like, oh man, I really made a difference. So yeah, I echo your thoughts, Patriot.
Look, this is where, as JP will say a lot, you build in the bear. You build when it's unexciting. You go through the churn, and for all the things we talk about, we should do X, we should do Y, where the RUNE price is or whatever. I feel the best way to do is you need to build and be ready. You need to be ready for when the market decides to come back. And it's hard because it's not fun. But there's not much you can do. You can't control the market. So by building and putting all these features in here, all you're doing is being ready. And the worst thing you can do is the market to come and not be ready, because you miss your boat. You've only got one shot in the cycle. So that's what I like. All these little things are improving the base layer. And it may not seem it now, but we're just trying to be in the position where we're ready at the base layer. It's got everything it needs. The Rajura layer's up, and luckily we've got a bit of time for that. So when it comes, everything's in place. That's my hope.
Totally. All right. Extended memos. Is that next on your list?
Yeah. So if BTC memos are set to 80 characters long, so you can't have a memo that's more than 80 characters long within Bitcoin through the op return field, which poses quite a large limitation, and reason why there's all these shortened memo type of efforts. There's a whole page dedicated to it. There's a whole bunch of code just to shorten the memo to try and work with Bitcoin. It's a problem. And then when you look at Rajura using the execute memo, you can do all this fancy stuff, but they require large and long memo lengths. So that's obviously a problem when you're trying to work with Bitcoin and you're trying to move Bitcoin and set these fancy things, particularly with aggregation methods and stuff, and work with the app layer. So this it enables you to extend and add multiple outputs within a UTXO to Bitcoin to make them much longer. And it doesn't do this just for Bitcoin; it does for all UTXO. So like the Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, all that type of stuff. So this then enables Bitcoin to be much longer than 80 characters, like way longer. And then that's going to allow you to do more fancy things within Bitcoin via aggregation, because you've got the pipe method that allows you to put stuff at the end of the outbound, as well as to interact and do complicated stuff within the app layer.
Can you give an example, like right now, like what we can do something right now? Could you give an example? Just make something up in your head of what would be possible if this was implemented today.
Well, at the moment, you can't swap to an Ethereum smart contract, put a limit order on it, and do a full memo. You can't do a full memo at the moment within Bitcoin because you'll exceed 80 characters.
Right. So this would be. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I mean,
sorry. At best, you will say swap, full name, Ethereum address, and then that's pretty much it. You can't do anything else.
So does this synergize really nicely with the Rajura app layer, or does it not relate because those are secured assets and a different thing?
Yeah, well, but so there's two things you can do. So one, you can do like a full swap memo, and then you can use the vertical pipe, and then after that, you can put your aggregation patterns to do something like calling Uniswap and passing instructions through to Uniswap. So you could use Bitcoin in an aggregation pattern because you've got you can use a very long memo. So that's really cool. Just base layer swapping through aggregation, like everyone does it through Ethereum. Within the Rajura context, you can use the execute memo, which is just going to be like X. Then you can add all these parameters. Well, you add the smart contract address, and then the parameters after that, to call a smart contract with parameters from a native L1 Bitcoin transaction. Because you've got the space to add all that information, it makes it possible. So you could do call the Rajura trade contract to add from L1 Bitcoin to do a limit order within their order book. But with a short memo, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm loving this space. This space is like a nerd's wet dream, you guys. You got to share the space right now. Get the nerds in here or nerding out. I love this shit. It's awesome. Kenton, 13 Heavens, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, maybe just to help the newbies out. So the reason why memos are important here is like when you go to your favorite wallet or front end to go trade on THORChain, really what all that wallet is doing is writing the memo for you. Like you can technically write the memo yourself and create the transaction yourself and avoid using an interface and trade on THORChain. The wallets and the websites are writing that memo for you, making it a dummy proof, so you don't screw it up. But that's how THORChain works. That's how all the trades, everything is done is through memos when you send your crypto into THORChain, and then the nodes read the memo in that token you just sent in, and then that's the instructions to tell the nodes what to do. Right? You send in Bitcoin. Oh, what do you want to buy with it? Oh, is it Ethereum? Is it Ripple? Okay, right? And then that's how THORChain works.
Yeah, and if there's anyone listening to this recording and you're curious about that, you can DM me, Patriot Sounds, at Patriot Sounds, all one word. Just DM me and I will hook you up with the documentation that explains that. You have to know what you're doing, though. This isn't for beginners, but the instructions are there. So if you want to learn how to do this and just swap on THORChain natively or do something advanced, you can do that.
Oh yeah, please don't do this on your own unless if you're listening to this and you're doing it wrong, you say Kenton told me I could do it, and then you go lose your money. That is on you. That is not on me. I 100% do not recommend anyone to do this on their own. Do not write your own memos. Go use an interface. If you write your own memos, that is 100% on you. Buyer beware. I was just explaining just how it works and what's possible.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, you have to be an advanced user to be able to use mechanics. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, obviously I get in the weeds here a bit. Just for anyone that doesn't know, like I read the code, I write the technical documentation, I update the memo documentation. So that's why I know about this type of stuff. And then when I see this, I kind of like, my brain then thinks about what's possible when this particular 80 memo restriction gets removed, because I know like how all the other memos work.
Nice. So this was a big one, right? Like isn't this update like kind of one of like the bigger deals? Like it should open the door for a lot more stuff to happen on THORChain.
Well, as I said, it's good for L1 and it's good for the Apple layer. But yeah, this issue has been around since the start of THORChain, right? Like this is a BTC limitation. Yeah, been around for a while. And yeah, this particular 80 character in the memo has been a restriction for THORChain since the start, and now it's gone. So I find it very cool, and it's done for all the UTXOs.
And forgive me, like Monero is a UTXO, right? And wasn't one of the issues with trying to get a Monero pool on THORChain was the memo size was too small? Or am I?
It's very small.
And so
this would fix it.
But Monero isn't a UTXO, right?
Possibly there might be some other issues with Monero outside of that. But if this could be applied to Monero, then obviously that particular restriction wouldn't be an issue anymore.
I'm sure there's lots of difficulties with it, but I'm pretty sure, and it's stuck in my brain that the memo length was one of them. So maybe I don't know if Monero pool will ever happen. It might just be technically impossible, but at least we're one step closer. We're not getting further away, we're getting closer. So that'd be cool if that does help.
Cool.
Should we go to the next one?
Sure.
Yep. So the next one was talked about a little bit in the last one, which was limit orders. So limit orders got renamed to advanced swap queue. And in simple terms, they're limit orders. So they give me a price or swap when the price reaches a certain point, but they're against the pool. So they're not really like limit orders in a market or in an order book. They're really just against the pool. When the pool price, or really the pool ratio hits a certain amount, then swap this for me. So, sell Bitcoin at a certain price as an example. I've got a video on this if you wanted to get more details. I wanted to go into, listen to the last space, Kenton. I wanted to go into a bit more detail on why trade assets, secured assets, and L1 assets, like the type of swap, doesn't matter when one, swaps occur, and two, when these limit orders go through. But first, I just want to understand if you had any more questions around that before I get into the detail.
Yeah, just before, I just want to clarify. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me, guys. You said advanced swap queue. These are the same thing as limit swaps that Chad was talking about, right? This is the same feature?
Yeah, exactly the same feature.
Okay, great. So so you're saying in GitLab, in the code and everything, is being referred to as an advanced swap, not a limit swap. Or advanced swap queue is how it's technically being titled in all the documents. So the limit swap is just slang.
It is now, because like if you do like a limit order or stuff like that, I think that's more order book type of terminology, whereas this is really only against the pool. So then it was like, oh, it's an advanced swap. I think the queue part, which I'll talk about in a sec, is because they copied the swap queue to change some of the logic, just in case they need to revert back to the old swap queue logic.
And then maybe you're going to address this, because I asked Chad, and afterwards I was even still thinking about it. I'm like, I still don't understand. Because I asked somebody sends in Bitcoin, limit order at X price. Like, where does that Bitcoin actually sit? Is it, is it a trade asset, a secured asset? Is it outside the pool? Like how is it accounted for? And he answered me, but I still don't understand his answer. Maybe, is that what you're getting to? Were you going to answer that for me or explain that further? So I'm still confused where the Bitcoin sitting waiting to have that order filled. How is it being held in THORChain? Like what kind of asset is it?
Good question. Let's do instant swaps. Let's talk about instant swaps, as in like we just discard streaming swaps for the minute, and then we can talk through an Ethereum, so a Bitcoin to Ethereum transaction. The reason, if we just get rid of streaming swaps, it's just going to make the explanation a bit simpler.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
So Bitcoin comes in, it gets observed, and THORChain gets told about it. I'm going to swap one Bitcoin for 30 ETH. I think was the example. Forgive my maths. So the Bitcoin comes in, it goes to the Asgard vault, and it sits there. It gets observed, like I said, observed. THORChain gets told about it. It goes through what's known as a handler, and a swap message is created and goes through the swap queue. The swap is not executed at this point. Basically, it's just a message with all the swap details, like the memo and the in and out requested asset and all of that. It just sits there in a queue. And this happens for secured assets, trade assets, L1 assets. Right, they're all you could say recognized. All the information is taken out of it, put into a swap message, and then sent to the queue. At the end of the block, there's literally a function called end block. The swap queue is then sorted into basically the most what's more beneficial for the network, what produces the most fees, a simple way of saying it, and then they're executed sequentially. So from that point of view, when the swap's executing, they're both moving across the pool. From there, the Bitcoin that's held from within the Asgard vault, obviously is known about, that is then swapped across the pool, and the outbound asset is then sent out. But really, all the swaps are done at the
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
end of the block. So any assets is sort of like in a pending point of view. They're not in the pool. They haven't been swapped. They're kind of like awaiting to be swapped. They're not counted to TVL. They're not any type of asset. They're just kind of like, we have it. We've logically accounted for it. It's pending, waiting to be swapped. All the swaps get ordered, occur at the end of the block, and then the outbound assets are sent out.
So everything's in the Asgard, essentially.
Correct.
Okay, there you go.
So they're not anymore. So if, let's just say these limit swaps are really popular, and we've got millions of dollars of Bitcoin sitting in this waiting room or this queue, this pending status. They're just as secure as the Bitcoin in the pool or Bitcoin trade assets, secured assets. It's all equally secure. They're not any more or less, they're not insecure than anything else because it's all in the same vault, same Bitcoin address, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. So pooled, trade, and secured assets, they're all rolled up in what's known as vaulted liquidity, all right, or vault liquidity, I think is on the incentive pendulum docs. Now they're secured. They form a part of the calculation of the revenue split, and they also go towards the TVL cap calculation. So whatever's a type of asset is already accounted for. Generally, at the moment, limit orders aside, when swap comes in, it's a transient asset. It's only pending for the life of the block. So it's in, gets swapped at the end of the block, and it's out. So therefore, it doesn't really live in the network in any way. Limit orders, I would assume, would be treated the same. They're like a transient deal. People, it's kind of like like the order book. They put in their orders, so therefore their asset is in the network, but it's not attributed to anywhere. It's not collateralized in the same way a secured asset needs to be collateralized because you've got it like a wrapped version. It's not secured in the pool because it doesn't live in the pool. Because if it lives in the pool, it would be subject to impermanent loss. It's just kind of like sitting there waiting to be swapped. And that would go across a couple of swaps, obviously, potentially a couple of blocks, or it could be within block. Depends, on the ratio of the pool. So whether that changes or not, I'm not sure. But from my point of view, it would be treated like an asset waiting to be swapped. And it kind of like it's in this quote unquote pending state, as you called it.
Now, it should contribute to the total TVL of the network, right?
That's interesting. Because it's not you can't use the asset in any way. Like, I guess it depends on the definition. Because if you did that, then, like I said, you've got an asset you can't really use any other way. You can't use it within trading. You can't use it within secured. It doesn't form part of the pool. It's like a separate form of asset. It would have to be. It's not even a type of asset because you can't use it. All you can do is just cancel the limit order at that time.
Well, I'm thinking about this a different way. So, like, let's pretend we had the TVLs at this the hard cap, and we can't grow the pools. We can't deposit any more assets. If these limit swaps are living outside the TVL, we could have millions of dollars of limit swaps come in and go over the hard cap, or no, they wouldn't. They would be subject to the hard cap. They wouldn't be able to come in and enter the network because the Bitcoin is sitting there. Like, the nodes can steal it, right? It's sitting in THORChain. That's how I'm thinking about the TVL.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I think will limit orders contribute to the TVL cap calculation? I haven't seen anything to say it will, but I could be wrong. The feature hasn't been merged, hasn't been completed, so that is a good question to ask. I'll find out for you.
That was a good question, Kenton.
Oh, thanks. I have a good question every now and then.
Frequently, brother.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Chris, for answering all our good and bad questions. So did you want to add, you said, let's just talk about a regular order, instant order. Did you want to add streaming swaps into this limit order? Like I'm reading your notes here. Streaming swap support to advanced swap queue. So how does streaming swaps play into this now?
Yeah, so if we go back to our swap queue, if we think about the swap queue ordering, which I do explain in one of my videos on this, is all the L1s, secured assets, and trade assets. They're all grouped together and executed at the end of the block. And they all go across the same pool. So from that point of view, the type of asset doesn't matter because they're all moving the pool. The only difference is the type of asset it is when it comes in, the type of asset it leaves, and the fee, because there's a different Mimir for each asset type, like 8 bits for L1 and 5 bits for trade and secured. So they're all grouped together, essentially, all sorted and executed at the same time. And then limit orders would be done after all the other swapping's done. So where streaming swaps comes into it is, well, actually, I'll go through limit orders. So limit orders then or advanced swaps, as we'll call it, would go along and say, hey, look, can I achieve this swap through some basic maths? So if you're getting, regardless of fees or anything like that, if I just look at the pure ratio of the pool, could I achieve this swap? If I can't, it just moves on. If I can, it'll go through simulate the swap with the fees. And if it can do that, it'll conduct the swap. But limit orders will always be done after the last parts. And that's pretty cool. Because you've then moved the pool, then there's obviously the option that, hey, there could be a streaming swap that could be done because this limit order now has moved the pool after all the swaps done. So then you can start iterating through and then, doing more of the streaming swaps or more sub swaps within the same block instead of doing them in a subsequent block, waiting for the arb and doing it in a subsequent block. And then that's how the rapid swaps would occur with the addition of limit orders or advanced swaps. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I was just going to say, aren't you describing rapid swaps? So basically what you're saying is, if I understand you right, let's say there's a streaming swap to sell 1 million of Bitcoin to buy $1 million worth of Ethereum. And then somebody else sends in a streaming swap to sell $1 million of Ethereum to buy 1 million of Bitcoin. They're both streaming swaps. Instead of waiting 5 hours for them to go through, THORChain will see the two, realize that they can cancel each other out and settle that swap instantly instead of waiting for each swap to go through separately over the course of 5 hours. Did I explain that right?
Yes. Obviously, yeah, limit order would cancel out a streaming swap or vice versa. But what's cool is that it doesn't matter the type of asset that's being swapped. As in, it could be a L1 cancels off a trade swap. That's, which is obviously streaming. Or a secured asset is canceling off the trade asset or vice versa. Because I'm not sure that was clear. So because everything's grouped together in the swap queue, therefore essentially this limit order, rapid order swap stuff would apply to all asset types, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Cool. So by including secured assets, that's including app layer. So any orders on RUJI is being read by the base layer too. So if somebody sends in a base layer L1 trade, say they're on Asgard X, they go place no Bitcoin trade. In theory, that could be settled through RUJI without the person on Asgard X having any idea. They're just getting their Ethereum back in their wallet. They have no idea what's happening to THORChain. Is that right? Does that make sense?
I think so. One, they're not going to know, and then two, obviously it's going to work it's going to work within the app layer because it works with secured assets. Obviously, for things like trade order books, that doesn't apply because the pool's not involved. I guess the principle would be at any time, if the base layer liquidity pool is involved, then this particular thing can apply.
Cool. Patriot?
Well, the thing I'm thinking about is if, say, someone puts a big swap in, because right now we have a tracker, right, that gives an estimated time of like how many minutes your swap is going to be. Like, let's just say there's one huge Bitcoin to ETH swap, right? So the tracker is going to give you time. But what's kind of cool about this, if I'm understanding correctly, is that we can under promise and over deliver. Right, because if someone comes in with a streaming swap in the opposite direction, like let's say if it was meant to go in 30 minutes, then it would execute much faster, and the customer would get their assets much faster. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but I will say there are limits and caveats to it.
Okay.
Obviously, you would need, if you think of like Uniswap v3, when you target your liquidity against a certain point in the XYK curve, right? If that all makes sense. With obviously the limit orders and the streaming swaps being able to match, that's going to happen at a certain price point. Now, if the price has moved out or there's not limit orders around the price as a streaming swap, obviously that match can't occur. So it's kind of like you require liquidity to be pushing on both sides for that to happen. If there's a mismatch or liquidity is only on one side because the other side dies out, then obviously you just revert back to the normal way things are done now.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense. There's a lot to think about, but I understand. I don't have the list in front of me. Was there another topic, or was that like the last big one?
No, we got a few more.
Let's keep going.
We're on the bullet point 3 now, Chris, right?
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about.
No, it's good, man. I love it.
No, keep going. We do
Let's
marathons
keep going,
here.
bro.
Yeah.
So what's really cool is a feature to change and delete swaps. So update and delete either streaming swaps or limit orders in flight, essentially. So that supports the previous feature we talked about. If you've got a limit order, you want to update the limit amount or the amount you want to receive, you can do that. Or if you've got a streaming swap or a limit order in place and you want to cancel that, you can via a new memo, and then that would allow you to, like I said, cancel any limit order or streaming swap in flight.
Would that make the maybe it's a dumb question, but that wouldn't affect. Wait, how would this work? Does that change the swap queue at all? Like the outbound time? Like if I have a streaming swap and I don't know, millions of dollars, stop it halfway. Obviously, no more of the exogenous assets going to be swapped, but does that get sent out quicker, or does not change? I don't know. I'm like, my brain's kind of struggling with this one. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
No, it just halts it. It just halts it. You say 50% through, 50% would be you obviously you'd be holding the 50. Well, the 50% would be sent out because with streaming swap it holds all the asset until it's done.
Right.
And then you just get returned the other 50%. So it's basically like just saying cancel it and give me the difference.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, that's actually a really nice upgrade for UI and for customers' experience. I think that's great. Awesome. THORChain's getting better and better, guys.
Those three combined add a lot of optionality just around the swapping, the swapping functionality, the swapping ability, the swapping UX, which is, everyone's been talking about. We need to increase swapping, L1 swapping. That's where THORChain's bread and butter is. So that's why I really like these type of changes, because that's exactly what people are saying should be improved, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think limit swaps and rapid swaps are going to be huge. Like I think it's going to be just as good, if not better, than streaming swaps. And yeah, do you have an idea? I don't know if you have any better idea, but Chad mentioned like the next few months, before the end of the year type thing, when they should be done. I don't know if you have any more insight on that, when they should be ready.
I can say limit orders, or sorry, advanced swaps and memoless transactions. They're coded. They're done. There are video walkthroughs from Chad before he had he went away. So from my point of view, they're done. They just need to be rebased, rechecked, retested, and they're in. Like the heavy lifting's done.
So what if it? Maybe you can help. If it's been in there for a while, like why hasn't the heavy lifting been done? Like what is, like in my mind, the heavy lifting is writing the code, and testing it. Making sure there's no vulnerabilities. Trying, doing your white hat hacking. Try to break it, make sure it's okay. Like after that, what else is there to do? Or is that what is left to do? And I'm misunderstanding.
It could be said that at the time there was a disagreement on priorities.
Okay.
Okay, well, but I think now we've got to the point now where this is something that we definitely want to do. So so would it be fair to say, what did Chad say? I can't remember, Kent. It was like a few months, just months away, and it could be live.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I think these are some of these things, like the advanced swap queue. It's for the next release, like 3.8, slated for 3.8.
Oh wow.
Fully activated, but like all the renaming and stuff like that happened in 3.7, and then this will go in 3.8.
That's badass. I'm excited, you guys. This is awesome.
I haven't seen memoless versions slated for release yet, actually like being assigned a release, but it could go 3.9, 3.10, something like that. So the next 1 or 2 releases I would expect.
I do have a question for you, Chris. On the advanced swap queue, how are the front ends and wallets going to do this, right? Like, because if you right now and you place a swap, it's always a market order, right? But we're basically introducing the ability to place a limit order. So the interfaces, they're going to have to update their UIs to be able to enter limit orders, right?
Yeah, correct. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's the UI problem.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that like I assume the UI, the interfaces that are close to THORChain will probably adopt it right away, but the ones like Trustwallet Ledger might be slow to adopt. I'm just trying to wonder, or maybe everyone will be slow to adopt, maybe because it's kind of a pain to code out. I don't know if you have any insight there, how long it might take for the interfaces to start. Once it's live on THORChain, do you have any idea how long it might take the front ends to implement it and start offering it to the users?
I'm not sure. I think it would happen quick because for the majority of the interfaces, the swapping is where the revenue comes from. And because this is essentially like a swap, then there's good revenue potential for the UIs on it. So I would be thinking pretty soon. I reckon THORSwap's probably got something drawn up by now on them. So I would see it's happening quick, but it could be like TCY where, first couple's up quickly and then the rest of them are coming in dribs and drabs.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not sure, but that would be my guess.
But you're right. Like I would think they would be, all the wallets will want to get on top of this because it's a pretty damn cool feature to offer your users. So yeah, one more way for us, all this talk about THORChain getting edged out on the quotes by other dexes. If the platform is if a user is entering a limit order, then by default, THORChain should be the only one seeing it. Or is I guess 13 Heavens, you're up here. Are you guys forking this and implementing it advanced swap queue as well? So I guess if a user does enter a limit order, they'll see both Maya and THORChain pop up. don't know if you're still listening, if you heard my question.
No, yeah, I'm still here. Pretty much all of the features that hit THORChain will go on to Maya eventually once they're proven out, and sometimes vice versa. But I do think THORChain will probably beat us to this one.
Cool.
So because it's only on THORChain, this type, like, okay, can you, so if you had a streaming swap from an asset from THORChain, okay, no, if it was from THORChain to Maya, you could cancel it, but if obviously if it was Maya to THORChain, you could not. I think that's right, Chris? Like it doesn't matter the end asset so long as it starts with THORChain, right?
Sorry, say that again.
A streaming swap from an asset on THORChain to Maya protocol, you can cancel that, right? You could cancel midway because the starting point's THORChain. Is my understanding correct? Like with
Yeah,
DEX
if it's
aggregation?
within the THORChain deck. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with the feature, you could. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Can you? I'm confused. Wait a second. You can't. Can you do a streaming swap from a THORChain pool to a Maya pool?
No.
Oh, I thought
Although,
it was just.
Eventually, I believe so.
Oh, I thought you could.
Because how it'll probably end up working is, well, it depends on how they implement it, but I imagine it'll swap to RUNE or whatever the connected asset is, and then it would just execute it on Maya. But because both are quite low gas fee environments, so you can kind of organize it however you wanted. Like you could do the whole swap to the connected assets and then issue the streaming swap on Maya, but since both have quite low gas fees, it would cost more. But you could also do every sub swap as its own swap, although I don't imagine that would be very efficient. So depends on how it gets implemented.
Yeah, I didn't mean to open a can of worms there. But okay, that makes sense.
yeah, so I understand it's not done at the moment, but I do recall talking to someone from 13 Heavens and hearing that it was in the works. So maybe if 13 Heavens can give more information and maybe an ETA.
Right now, no ETA, just because there's so much going on. It's hard to say, but I do know that all THORChain integration is pretty high on the priority queue. Like if I have to guess, it's not impossible to see it by the end of the year, but it's not very safe to quote that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Samantha.
Should we keep going? EDDSA. This is a big one.
EDDSA, well, I'll keep this pretty quick. But essentially you have a different signing algorithm that, Bitcoin and everything started off with elliptical curve digital signing algorithm. And then this is Edwards curve digital signing algorithm, essentially. So this then just enables Solana, Cardano, and other chains that support EDDSA to be added to THORChain. What's important is that the vaults, well, this was tried previously last year in StageNet, but there was an issue where the vaults wouldn't sign the EDDSA transaction to move funds, I think, during the churn. So that's why it's taken so long. This time it's been merged, and then, as I said, the vaults need to change to move EDDSA assets from one vault to the other vault during the churn, and that's how you'll know it'll be successful. So it's not just as easy as, we're doing this type of stuff. It has to be implemented into the Asgard vault, and it has to be implemented into THORChain to produce the relevant addresses for the inbound addresses, and to ensure that everything's working properly at you could say quite a low level within the asset management for it to be successful.
And this has been worked on for a solid year now, right? And do you have any insight? Is it just been like technically difficult? Like it requires a lot of code, or every time they think they have it figured out, now a bug creeps up and they got to figure, kind of like whack-a-mole. They're always got to fix something. Do you have any insight on why is it taking so long? Why is this so difficult?
I know it's difficult. I know it probably hasn't got 100% of the priority, that it probably should have had previously. And like I said, I know it was tried last year and failed because assets essentially got stuck in an old vault. So, which is obviously, again, you never want that to happen. So it's kind of like a combination of everything. And now, obviously, they think they've fixed that issue, and then it'll come out. So it's definitely not an easy one because you're having to change all the stuff with the Asgard vault, the digital signing stuff. Ensure you've got control over the funds when they migrate, as well as changing the aspects for the inbound, Bifrost, all that type of stuff. Like, it is a big change.
And I know, THORChain is constantly getting flack for taking so long with Solana, and like I wanted to, guys. I'm frustrated it's taking this long as well, but I think in my mind, the part of us taking it so long is it goes to show how difficult THORChain is, like the problem that it's solving, like the cross-chain swaps in a decentralized manner, and this is why. There's really no one else doing it. Maya is doing it, yes, but it's still basically a fork of THORChain, with their own flavor. And Chainflip is doing it, but it's they're still limited to a few assets. Like, there's just not a lot of players out there doing this because it's really hard. So we have to get it right? Could you imagine we have this Solana pool launch, and we say there's a few $1,000,000. And then, like you said, like, we go to do a churn and that vault is lost forever and we lose a few $1,000,000. Like, you talk about bad marketing. So it's sensitive. We got to get right the first time. We can't.
Or maybe worse.
Can't afford.
It introduces the bug and you can't churn the entire vault.
Sorry, say it again.
It introduces a bug and then the entire vault won't churn. And then because the validators are outside of the validator set, you can't regain control over the old vault.
Yeah, and those assets are lost forever. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, does that feel like a showstopper to you?
Yeah, it does. And guys, that's why, everyone wants things to ship fast on THORChain. And things have never shipped faster now that we have RUJI. Now our devs are just solely focused on base protocol stuff, like the speed of which changes are happening. But, understand, as Kenton perfectly stated, this is extremely complicated stuff. Layer 1 to layer 1 is no joke. There's hundreds of thousands of lines of code between, churns and vaults and swap logic and just everything. This is not little kids shit. You know what I mean? This is big boy shit. So, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm interrupting you. Keep going.
Well, that was basically it. It's just understand, like, there are, everyone wants things to ship fast, but there are enormous ramifications if we get something wrong. And it's a testament to our developers for actually getting so many things right. You know what I mean? Like, everyone can point to a mistake we've made, and we've made numerous because this shit's so complicated. But how many things did we get right? Innumerable things right. Like 99.9% accuracy, but that 0.01% will get you every time. You have to get the nail on the head, So I think that's just a perspective I try to push occasionally, just to remind people just how serious and how difficult this stuff is. We take it for granted, I feel like THORChain runs like butter these days, in my opinion, but it's so easy to introduce something that can just really wreck the whole ship.
I actually wanted to take advantage of having 13 Heavens up here with us. Just so you guys know, 13 Heavens, they're like 9 realms on Maya protocol. But I'm curious, because you guys have integrated other blockchains on Maya that the THORChain does not. So you guys do have experience bringing on new blockchains on the Maya. Have you done any work on EDDSA yourself? Have you been collaborating with anybody on THORChain to help get it on THORChain so that you guys can have it on Maya? Like, do you have any insight or involvement there?
I do think a little bit of work has been done in that regard, but as far as I understand it, the reason why ADA hasn't shipped is we're actually waiting for the audits and everything to come back for the Solana implementation, and then we're going to be using some of that code base. So I do think THORChain is doing the bulk of that lift right now.
But because we're friends, like we've been sharing, it's been collaborative because you're
Yeah, of
sharing
course.
the code with each other. Yeah.
Of course. The beauty between the two is we're kind of helping each other with each other's homework.
Yep. Chris, you have any more you want to add?
No. I just really hope it's successful during testing.
And
Likewise.
again, that should be, is it 3.8, the next update coming out, that there's some new code for that? Is it 3.9? Like it's soon, like it's imminent that.
3.8, next release. Next
Yeah.
release.
It's a fingers crossed, everybody.
Yeah.
IBC deposits?
So this is really cool. Were you around when IBC was being discussed? You guys like, and it was a bit controversial.
Oh yes, I remember that very well.
Chad B was never liked the idea. Then like Daddy's gone, so like okay, now we can do this. So yeah, I'm curious. Yeah.
So this essentially, okay, you have like a Bitcoin client, and that Bitcoin client allows THORChain to essentially add an inbound Bitcoin address. We'll follow on that. So what the IBC will allow is essentially an IBC Cosmos hub address to be added for THORChain that then allows the infrastructure for IBC to be enabled within THORChain. Then that will allow any IBC enabled asset to come into THORChain. Not going to say it's going to be accepted, and all those things around IBC still exist with regards to how do we securitize assets that are not natively part of THORChain. However, that allows for all of the groundwork to be done for IBC to occur within THORChain. Obviously, that's probably not going to be a base layer thing, but that could be extremely important for RUJI when it wants to interact with other Cosmos Hub applications or chains.
So do you remember? I forget, to be honest. Like what were the reasons against it? I thought originally it was just like it was nothing like. I don't think there was any security risk or anything. It was just like it just wasn't necessary type thing. Like it's not gonna really add any more value. So why spend the time on doing it? Or was there a technical concern like this could introduce a new attack vector or vulnerability or something like that?
I think technically we weren't really up to date with Cosmos SDK, but we are now. Security wise, it's like if you take an IBC asset and you swap it for Bitcoin, now you hold this IBC asset. Like it has no real value. You haven't got a pool for it. It's not going to earn value. This is how I see it. So now you've got, say, Osmosis as an example, and you've sent out Bitcoin. Is the protocol still the same? Like, has it just lost Bitcoin, or what's it going to do with this Osmosis asset now? Like, it's not. How do you deal with that? Also, if you're sending out assets, you're sending out, say, secured assets, secured BTC out via Cosmos. You're still securitizing that asset, but it's not earning you any revenue. So it comes down to secure. There's no security for the inbound assets. I guess you're putting that up, and then you don't want to be securitizing assets that are left. That's how I would see it. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but there are questions that come up, particularly when you're opening it up to all the assets within Cosmos, connecting to the THORChain. You're like, well, how's that specifically going to work?
Sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Yeah, go ahead, Patriot.
Well, I was going to actually just interject something different here. Guys, if anyone has any questions, just please put them in the THORChain Telegram. We're trying to make comments work on THORChain. We had with the Coke really break down intellectually what's going on. I'm 1/8 Native American. I burned a little sage before the space started, trying to get a little spiritualism involved. I don't think comments are working. So I don't know. I don't understand. We can't figure out why comments don't work on X Spaces. So if anyone has any questions, just put them in the THORChain Telegram, and I will keep an eye on that if anyone has any questions. Or of course you can request and come up. I'm a little buggy, but yeah.
Are you
Well, I guess we'll
related
wait till.
to Elizabeth Warren?
I'm a little bit more Native American than her, buddy. Okay,
Okay.
1/8. My
Okay.
great grandfather, 100% Potawatomi. So I've got that spiritualism in me. You know what I'm saying? I'm tribal. You guys know what I'm saying? So it's serious. Okay, it's real. It's not like what was it, 1,124? Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. Yes, I'm more than her, 100%.
Right on. Chris, so the IBC, so I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Is it basically like somebody sends a Bitcoin and it just sits there and like, it's not generating any revenue. So it's just kind of like a dead asset. And so then where does the security come from to protect it? You know, why should we support a dead asset? Did I summarize that well? Is that right? Is that the kind of what you're trying to get at?
I think like the issue I was seeing is if we get an IBC asset, just say you want to swap some IBC asset for Bitcoin, that IBC asset comes into THORChain, Bitcoin leaves the network. I'm like, that just doesn't feel right, because now we've got an IBC asset that is secured somewhere else, I assume. Just say it's, I don't know, IBC backed Bitcoin or something. And then the pool's reduced. Like if you've got Ethereum to Bitcoin, you're adding Ethereum and you're sending out Bitcoin. So in a way, it's kind of like a net neutral with value. Obviously, you're taking away fees, but with an IBC, you're not having a net neutral because there's no input into the pool. Because if you don't have a pool that supports that asset, like I said, you just basically there's an exit only.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, so in my mind, I was thinking like somebody deposits Bitcoin and gets an IBC token, like a wrap token, and then goes uses IBC somewhere, blah, blah, blah. But that, which is happening, but that's coming, you're saying that wrapped token is coming into THORChain, into the pool, which is not, okay, I get it.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then there's, if we were to do secured assets, send something out, we're holding the security, but the asset's being utilized somewhere else. So it's like, well, how does that benefit THORChain? Because then obviously that adds to the TVL cap. You don't want all these orphan, collateralized assets that you're holding the collateral for, that's affecting your TVL cap when it's not generating any revenue.
Okay. Okay, so then why are we doing this?
Well, I see benefits for it. Noble being the next one, and then I don't know how it's going to fully work. I think it would be great to talk to some RUJI people, but if you take this a step further, this is more for the app layer. But the app layer talks to native Bitcoin, right? The Cosmos ecosystem doesn't have the ability to get to native assets. So what I was sort of seeing when RUJI would come out is through an IBC connection. Again, that we're just laying the groundwork. The specifics will come later. It's going to conceptually allow the Cosmos IBC ecosystem to connect to native Bitcoin via the RUJI layer, if that makes sense. Because RUJI is obviously going to be able to work with these other IBC smart contracts and stuff like that on other chains. And then via that process, you can connect them to THORChain's L1 pools.
Okay.
Something for the future. But if you think about that for a sec, the possibilities of app layer are far beyond just the app layer. They extend into the Cosmos space.
Okay. Go ahead, Kenton.
I would say, yeah, that part's cool. I'm trying to wrap my head around an IBC Bitcoin ending up in the Bitcoin pool. That does not sound cool.
Like this enables the process to be done, But obviously, the exact details and how this gets utilized, what assets will get supported, and yada yada is yet to come.
So it's a whitelisting process essentially, like, or
Look,
am I wrong about that?
I would think so. Like, you can't just send any asset into THORChain at the moment. Like, there needs to be stuff that built in for it. But now you could potentially, like Adam on Gaia, that comes into THORChain via Bifrost. Potentially, you could do the same thing via IBC instead of going through Bifrost, because if it's IBC enabled asset.
The next space, I think we might have Pragmatic Monkey. So that might be a good thing we can run by him, Kenton, just to clarify that little, maybe he would know the answer to that question, the exact type of IBC assets that are going to be ending up where or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. To write that down.
I know this is something for the future, like with regards to the app layer. It's like, hey, let's get everything built first, get it running first, get everything sorted and scaled up within THORChain context. And then IBC comes, after that step. But it's good to see that coming.
Okay, I got it. Was there anything more on that, or should we move on to the next one?
No, we can move on to Noble. This might tie into direct IBC deposit. And Noble is a adds native circle issued or USDC on a Cosmos stable chain. So you can think of it like the USDT for Cosmos, and it allows USDC and stable coins to move across IBC blockchains using Circle's cross-chain transport protocol, CCTP. You can Google that if you want. Then this would become like a preferred collateral asset within the Cosmos space for all things to do with, this is how I understand it, all things to do with Cosmos DeFi applications, e.g. RUJI. So this, you would potentially want to be dealing with this noble.usdc instead of saying, potentially a pool USDC for things that happen within app layer. It's well established within the Cosmos space. And it, like I said, it goes across, it enables the transfer of USDC across IBC IBC chains in a seamless manner.
Okay. I don't really have anything to add to that. Do you, Kenton?
No, I don't. To be honest, I don't understand. Yeah, sorry, Chris.
Kind of like you're enabling a native, think of it like a native USDC stablecoin into THORChain that can then be utilized within the DeFi app layer on THORChain. And that particular stablecoin is used within the Cosmos ecosystem as well. So you're then able to use that to within your app layer for, like, take out a loan, you can get Noble, and then utilize that within the Cosmos space, as well as potentially adding another stable coin to the Tor calculation that's coming from another chain.
Okay, so like I have a Circle account, so I can withdraw USDC onto Ethereum or Avalanche. I can also withdraw it onto Cosmos, and that's called Noble USDC. Like the Cosmos version of USDC is Noble. Is that right?
You'd have to check the chain, but my research kind of saying is that it is a fully Circle-backed USDC stablecoin. But whether they have an equivalent on Gear or not, I'm not sure.
Okay. I hope I'm right the way I explained it, and then I get it. Then yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Patriot?
No, I don't really have much to add to that one. It's my understanding is a little superficial as yours, but I mean, it makes sense, but I don't really have anything I can add to make the conversation more meaningful.
All right. Last but not least, secured assets.
So I read this and I was like, I don't understand it, because why would you have liquidity pooling for secured assets? You don't want to fragment liquidity in any way. You don't want to have a Bitcoin pool at the base layer and also at the secured layer, because obviously liquidity is going to be in two spots. That to me just didn't make any sense. So I'm like, well, how does a secured layer Bitcoin pool work? And it's really cool. So because there's going to be a requirement for trading at the secured asset layer, there needs to be a Bitcoin one, but it's kind of like going to be a virtualized Bitcoin pool where the actual liquidity pool is going to be within the L1 Bitcoin pool. So you mint your L1 Bitcoin and you pair that, say, with RUNE or whatever, but the actual liquidity, that's virtualized at the app layer, but the actual liquidity is inside of the L1 Bitcoin pool. So that should increase the depth of the L1 Bitcoin pool via liquidity additions at the app layer.
Okay. Explain the difference between Saber synth unit and the secured asset. What's the difference there? No leverage on the pools. It could. Okay.
So when you add, I thought about this too, because I'm like, well, how does this thing work? Since leverage on the pool, because you have dynamic synth collateral units, which are then going to be obviously fully collateralized based off the value that it's in there, regardless of what happens in the pool. So that's why the pool, when it contracts and expands, the synth collateral units are always updating to either take away from the LP or add to the LP's position to confirm that collateral. This is not synth. What this would do is when you add L1, when you add your say synthetic, when you add secured Bitcoin to the pool, it will add it to the actual L1 Bitcoin pool and issue with an LP token, and that LP token then is basically like LP units on L1 that gives you an ownership over the pool, because then that allows the Bitcoin and the RUNE inside of the pool to change based off the pool movements, because you couldn't add secured assets, secured BTC into the pool, because obviously the pool is always subject to impermanent loss and always going to move. So therefore it's not collateralized as in the same way secured assets are outside of the pool, because it's inside of the pool. The way that's represented is through an LP token, which is ownership of the pool at the app layer.
And I don't know, Shapeshift intern. I have you stuck. I'm trying to I have your request. I don't know. I got Koitsu up. I've been trying to confirm you to come up. If you want to resubmit, or maybe you're not want to talk anymore. But I don't know. I don't know why you're not coming up. Koitsu, did you have something you want to ask about specifically to that?
Yeah, Chris, is that not effectively? You're essentially having a token that is like. To me, that seems the same as almost like a wrapped asset. How does that work with economics if someone withdraws a large amount from the pool? Is that token asset that correlates with whatever their LP units is that actually tracked throughout everything? Or do we run the risk of someone withdrawing from the LP and then causing the people that hold the LP token to not have any value anymore? To me, it just seems like a wrapped asset, but I don't think I'm looking at it the right way.
Hey, mate. Good to finally speak. We talked a lot on Discord. No, if we forget about the secure stuff, when you add to a liquidity pool, you're issued liquidity pool units, LP units, and that is essentially gives you is a representation of the ownership of the pool. You could think about it, you're issued a percentage ownership of the pool. When you add at the secured layer, you're just getting an LP token, which is essentially the same as your LP units. So the liquidity addition at the secured asset part is no different to an L1 addition. It just takes that secured asset, burns it takes the Bitcoin collateral and then puts that into the pool and then gives you back that LP token. So there's no difference to then sending really L1 Bitcoin in to the pool directly and getting your LP units. It's just that one you've got a token, the other one you don't.
So when you go to cash in the LP unit, are you only able to get back a secured Bitcoin, or are you able to choose whether you get back a L1 Bitcoin or a secured Bitcoin?
I think the way the writing is, yeah, you will burn the LP token, and then you're issued back your secured BTC.
So you get back the same thing that was put in. You can't change assets at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you did change it, it's still okay because there's no funny business going on. Everything is accounted for.
Well, I guess technically, it could be considered just a swap, in which case, okay, convenience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of it like a shortcut. I've got a secured asset, and then I swap it to an L1 asset, and then I add it to a liquidity pool. That's just, that's the long way of doing. So adding a secured asset to the liquidity pool. And then...
Yeah, I see it. That's a good way to describe it, Chris, actually. That makes sense to me. I understand.
The withdrawing is just the reverse of that, obviously. And then, except you have basis points where you can withdraw a percentage of it. I want to withdraw half, I take it out, put it to L1, then swap that to secured, and then off I go.
So is this going to be for, like, should this help market making? Like, is it the arbitrage bots that are going to take advantage of this? Or like what, or is this done for retail usage?
You get, not sure, but it would improve, I just got my notes, improving the composability of the app layer protocols. So then the app layers could do this for, like NAMI, that wants to do yield bearing strategies, could utilize liquidity pools to get a return as part of its yield bearing strategies.
Got it.
Yeah, I was about to ask if it was even necessary, but then considering it's app layer, yeah, and of course trade assets they're completely different. They don't work this way. So, okay, yeah, I think I get it.
So, when you're like, I've documented, these are the type of documents and videos and pictures I definitely want to be drawing next, because it's very hard to, explain this stuff via voice and words only. It's just much easier via picture.
Yeah, when I was listening to you talk about the IBC stuff, I was not up here, but I was talking to myself going, I need a visual, because Kenton's also like, I don't get this either. And I'm like, I need a visual, and I know there's a guy to come out with a visual. It will be Chris. So.
Yeah, I'll get with PM and Mark and see if we can get some specifics on it.
I'll take the opportunity to shill you a little bit, GrassRootsCrypto. He has a YouTube channel, same name. If anyone in here, so I'm seeing lots of new faces. I'm seeing some friends from XRP community here. I'm telling you, go to his YouTube. He breaks down THORChain in a way that's very intuitive, because a lot of the things we've been talking about, they might sound a little technical. He takes you from, level 1 to level 100. Okay. And once you visualize how it all works, it makes a lot more sense. Explaining it without visualization, you have to construct a mental model, and that is very difficult to do. So I highly recommend you guys go check out his YouTube channel, subscribe, and go down the rabbit hole like I did back in 2021.
And he does a great job. The videos they're digestible. They're like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes long, about one topic each. Right. So like this space has been long, right? This is probably a lot. It's like kind of like drinking from a fire hose, go over all these different things. But when you go to his YouTube channel, if you're like, I just want to learn about this feature, how does that work? And he's got a dedicated video just for that. And so it's really easy to go at your own pace and not be overwhelmed.
And I should also go ahead, Koitu.
Yeah, if you're listening in and you are new, we all talk about this stuff because we've been around a while, so we know. we generally know, like, I won't go as far as say I know what I'm talking about, but at least we know the terminology and we're familiar enough with THORChain that we kind of understand. But if you're new and you're like, I only understood 20% of what these guys are talking about. GRC's videos are top notch. They will absolutely fill you in a really, really really easy to consume way. And there's always the Discords if you have further questions, and everybody will help you out.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we got Baloney Bones in the audience, one of the best educators that we have as well. Constantly writing material, making things easily digestible as well. So we have a lot of resources, guys. I can't post any. It's so bugged. I can't do anything. But just click my profile or Kenton's or Koitsu or Grassroots. If you're interested, I will send you all the resources so that you can then you can learn on this on your own speed. Because the faster and more people learn about this stuff, the better, because what we're building here truly changes everything. And I do see some XR peers in here. I mean, all the stuff that's coming on the app layer, I mean, the world's going to open. And because now we have layer 1 XRP available, I mean, it's a really exciting time. It's going to make, it just makes every asset better. Like THORChain just makes every asset, just gives it so much more utility. Right. So and it's not just a one-way street here. Like it's a two-way street. We add support for assets. We add all these new primitives, and everyone flourishes together because it's just more interoperability. There's just more things you can do. Right. I mean, Bitcoin's been boring for most of its life, but now you can really do some interesting things with it that can help like make the asset worth more. Right. So again, I encourage anyone to reach out to any of the speakers up here. Follow us. Follow people in the audience. Just familiarize yourself because this is cutting edge stuff. What's coming is, I truly believe it's going to change the world for better. I'm so excited. Does anyone up here have anything else they want to add? Go ahead, Chris.
No, thanks for that. Thanks for the shout out. Very kind. Honestly, I start drawing pictures to, try and learn and understand it myself. So, usually it's like version 20 of the picture that you might see. Same with like trying to put stuff out on spreadsheets. Just to figure out how it works. So thanks for that. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I thought Baloney might wanted to have something to say. Maybe you can request him to speak or make him a speaker.
Yeah, and Shapeshift again, it went away. Maybe restart your phone. I have no idea. I swear to God, I'm pushing accept, and it's just I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I don't want Baloney Bones. If you're busy and you can't come up, no, I don't want to add pressure to anybody. We love to have you, obviously, but I just want to make sure you got your shout out. Go ahead, Kenton.
No, I was going to say, anyone else listening wants to jump up and ask questions, by all means, please.
Okay, Chris, you said all that stuff, that great list of things that are coming. I don't want to get ahead of our skis here, but what's the next iteration? Just in you can put in simple words, like what gets you excited after this?
I think most of it's here. It's just going to be the limit orders and some of the AppLab stuff that's coming, but the rest of it's kind of in. Like it's already in mainnet now. I think what gets me excited is the AppLab forming. There's a whole obviously suite of DeFi applications that we've been, this spaces have been talking about for a while, and then there's obviously that's going to allow a whole world of new use cases and people to join THORChain for different reasons. So it's like all these different avenues to come in, not just for the AppLab, but when the AppLab connects to other things. So definitely the AppLab is what is exciting to see that fully fleshed out and getting that in time ready for when the market comes up.
I couldn't agree more. I think you got up, Shapeshift. That's awesome. Baloney Bones will go to you, and then we'll go to Shapeshift. What's going on, guys? Want to test your mic out there, Baloney Bones? Can't hear you, brother. I'll give you a few more seconds, and I'll just go to Shapeshift. No worries. Oh, there.
Hey, man, can you hear me? I realized that the THORChain community is on the phone, and I'm on the computer. You got me?
Yeah, I got you. There's a I can hear myself talking, so maybe get away from the speaker or mute one aspect. But yep, I can hear you, brother. Okay.
So you did, Patriot. Tell him to mute. Now he can't talk anymore.
Shit.
Yep, there's technology making life easier.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Oh, yep. Yep. Go ahead.
So I think 13 Heavens can corroborate, but I might have missed the memo. Shapeshift got done testing and launched integration with Maya this Monday, a couple days ago, or yesterday, and Solana, respectively, at the beginning of the year. I posted it in the THORChain comments.
Perfect.
Seems noteworthy.
Yeah. And as soon as Solana goes live on THORChain, then Shapeshift. I hope Shapeshift's getting in touch with the RUJI guys, so they can slot in the DeFi primitives and stuff that can come on the Solana.
Yeah, no, those. Yeah, our dev kids are cooking like crazy. I don't know if you've seen the metrics of what we've been shipping, but I'll post it because it's some horn tootin' worthy shipping. So yeah, they got a lot on their plate. They're chewing it up and spitting it out. So, but yeah, we've had Solana since for over 7 months now, and Maya Protocol officially launched Monday.
Love it. That's awesome. Thank you for the update, Shift. Do you want to go ahead and try again, Baloney, from the? I'm assuming you're talking from the THORChain community one.
Yeah. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, brother. Go ahead. You sound great.
Oh, I just wanted to say thanks to you three. I'm all caught up now. I've been working in the back office for a while, and it's nice to hear everybody still kicking ass. Yeah, man, I'm excited. I think that there's a lot of positive impetus going on these days. I just had a call with Simon earlier today, and yeah, a lot of good stuff coming. So everything that you guys were talking about, I was taking notes on. So I just wanted to say.
Oh, he dropped. Damn. Well, he was saying something really nice there. Friggin' X Spaces, you guys. That was a great cutoff. I just like to say, and rug pull.
That's frustrating.
I know it's frustrating.
Oh, he's laughing.
It's part of the charm. It's part of the charm of X anymore. I mean, really, we could be bitching about expensive radio licensing and broadcasting bills and renting out a, radio studio or a television studio with union employees. But now we're just bitching about X for $20 a year or whatever. So we'll be all right.
I'm trying to see.
That's what I say.
Can we get Baloney back up? So I want him to
Yeah,
talk about.
I invited him.
I want him to talk about
Yeah, go
THORChain.
ahead. Yeah.
I want him to talk about THORChain community.
If I don't get booted, I'd be happy to.
There you go. I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, man. So, yeah, I realized after a while that the THORChain University, everybody kind of learned everything. But now it seems that there's, I really love that of like all, what was it, the past 5 years, there's like a pillar of just this focus on learning, and you guys are kicking butt with all of it. So I intend to be around more in these spaces that you guys are doing. So I also want to offer the THORChain community handle if you guys ever need it for anything. So the Discord's open. We've got we're answering tickets, and I saw your post earlier, Kenton. Sam Yap just posted it in our team server. I like it.
Which post?
I'm digging.
I've been posting a lot.
It was the one. It was the one where we were. You suggested we be deployed.
We be deployed.
The THORChain community server, Discord, would be like a support.
Oh, for a THORChain only front end.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm volunteering you to do more work.
I was like, just deploy me. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, well, man, we're gonna open up a little can of worms. This will be the topic for Saturday. But yeah, but to be frank, like your whole transition from THORChain University to THORChain community, in my mind, I think is really important for THORChain because, and I'm glad Koitsu, you're here. You can attest to this. Like, Koitsu and Sam Yap spend so much time in the developer Discord, dealing with people who really should be in a community Discord, and take and I think it's tough because Koitsu and SemiUp don't really have anywhere to send these people, and they can send them to you, and where they belong type thing, right? And then which I think is really important to have, like, people go to ask more general stuff, maybe talk about the RUNE price, whatever. And then the question, when I keep talking about THORChain front end, the question has come up a few times. Well, who supports it, right? Who's going to do the work, right? Because there's invariably going to be questions. And I'm like, well, in my mind, that's obviously the community Discord. But like, there's lots to hash out if any of this becomes a reality. But I'm really glad that you see that and you're already positive about it. Didn't take offense or.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah.
And I really I have always been working with Nine Realms ever since 2020. I talked a lot with Gavin and Orion back then, and every time, like, I touched base with them fairly frequently over the years, and I really appreciate Simon taking over the CEO role, and I'm meeting with him, and it was kind of realized that the THORChain University had kind of served its purpose of doing the education thing, but now like a general community server that's not focused on solely education, and that might deter some folks. So yeah, and also Sam Yap and Koitsu, they're the studs in THORChain community Discord too. So they're everywhere. If you see them, yeah, they're also in other places. But yeah,
Yeah, I
man,
mean,
we've got the experts.
yeah, it doesn't mean people can't go to the media Discord to learn and ask questions. It's just not called university anymore, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, actually, I kind of feel bad because we should have a space with you, and just maybe kind of talk about your background, TCU, the THORChain community, what you're just in THORChain, all kind of stuff, and then help remind people that this Discord exists. Try and reinvigorate it.
Coming out of the bushes again.
Yeah.
Once upon a time it was called LPU back in the day. And I mean, shoot, when we started, it was, I think the first 4 months we had 20,000 people in there active. So and then like everyone learned everything, and then they moved over to the dev Discord, and then there was it seemed to have soaked up the bandwidth a lot over there. So I talked to Nine Realms and kind of did some troubleshooting with them, and this was the idea. And now we're getting the ball rolling with some outputs now that we've got a nice mission on our hands.
Well, I think the
Awesome.
front end idea, Kenton, and having them linked to the Discord is a brilliant idea. I love that so much. I'm actually mad that I didn't even think about that myself. So I think that's a great way to get new people, new blood, and get them educated, because you guys are very good at educating people. We just, and I think we're going to have a whole new wave of individuals coming in.
Well, that's the thing. We're a bunch of teachers and not great marketers. So, as it goes.
Well, teaching is a good form of marketing. It is, well, I guess maybe not originally getting someone, but once you get them, yeah, teaching is great because it keeps people engaged. They're when people learn honestly, like, it's stimulating, right? It's a dopamine hit. It's a dopamine hit.
Yeah, I would say that we taught a lot of the folks in the beginning, and Chris was there well before 2018 or something. Chris is the OG, and I learned from watching his videos posted from like 2019. But yeah, man, I mean, like, and really, if once it clicks, you don't leave THORChain. It works, and I'm excited, especially with everything that you guys talked about tonight.
Shapeshift, you have your hand up. Shapeshift intern.
Yeah, I got to get that delay on the mute button. I needed to take this opportunity to publicly express gratitude to Chris at GrassRoots. He's done a thankless job, and I don't think we could thank him enough. And I also would like to rob this train and invite everybody to watch us build in the open tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Shapeshift Discord. There's going to be our All Fox, which is every 3 months. We just do a complete rundown, and yeah, it's kind of a teaser for alpha. I don't like to be a tease, so I got to keep my words short. But we may try to simulcast on X, but we all know how that goes. I'll probably do a follow-up post either way. Thanks, Chris. You're a killer. Godspeed.
Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to say thank you. I do like explaining these things, and I'm always happy that people find it useful. I am also very happy that Shapeshift has integrated my chain. That is really cool. I want to see them, put together, and it is great. I think you're supporting one, you also want to support the other, and really big believer on that type of thing. For anyone, obviously I've covered a lot of comprehensive detail. So if anyone wants to get more information, I'd recommend going to the THORChain community Discord server. They have fantastic mods that somehow, I feel like they know more than me, because they are very in touch with what's going on. They seemingly read every message on the dev Discord server and every other server there and all the servers. So if you're new, you wanted to get questions answered, dip your toe in a little bit instead of jumping the deep end with some of the stuff I've done, definitely join the THORChain community Discord server and ask all your questions there, because they have really good, fantastic mods, and that is the best place to start exploring. And they'll be able to throw you the resources you need at the pace that you need it. You know what I mean? I've also got a course. I don't know, Baloney, whether that course is still going, just to walk your way through THORChain and get started, so you can start to understand these concepts, and then the more you do that, the more that these type of conversations become understandable, and don't feel like it's hard. I know when first starting out, I didn't understand any of this stuff, and it was kind of weird. They said don't be the smartest person in the room, but that doesn't mean you're not going to feel dumb at times. That's what I felt. So take your time, learn, ask lots of questions, and it's all there and available, and lots of people there willing to help, particularly at the THORChain community Discord, and obviously the people here on the spaces.
Yeah, learning about THORChain is a humbling experience. Really, yeah, be the smartest guy in the world, and still scratch your head.
Yeah, absolutely true. And that's actually a really great segue. I do not want this space to end. The reason I have to leave is I have a little side project I'm doing with Jane Butterfly, and she's actually waiting for me. But that was a great segue, Chris. He said dip a toe. I'm gonna be on the Dip a Toe show, which is a show that's specifically geared to XRPers primarily. I'm gonna be doing that tomorrow, guys. So I'm gonna do my best to help them understand THORChain. I see there is a few XRPers in here, which I'm so thankful you guys are here. And I'm hoping you guys will also take the knowledge you learned today and help on-ramp extra people to understand what we built here. That's mostly at your benefit, and it's the benefit of the world, really, but we're just connecting anyone and everyone. So I'm going to, I hope, Satoshi, I see you're up here. I'm going to go down from co-host. If this kills the space, I am so sorry, but I have to leave. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Baloney. Thank you, everybody. You're wonderful. I'm feeling really good. So I hope everyone has a great day. Keep the conversation going, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Patriot. I think you should be fine if you leave.
Cheers, mate.
Satoshi Berta, we brought you up there. I don't know if I said it right, but go ahead.
That's Satoshi's bride.
Okay,
she's
sorry.
quite lovely.
Correct. Okay, thanks. And well, I wanted to first say thank you for the mic. And then I got a tail end of that Shapeshift intern talking about building in public. And yeah, maybe I'll go there and I can try to add value. And then THORChain, I don't know anything, but I do like grassroots movements. And I would say my ears are open.
How did you find out about this space? What brought you in?
I followed a Shapeshift.
Okay, gotcha.
The red one over there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Right on.
Yeah,
awesome.
he tends to be in intelligent spaces, and he's kind overall. So I thought y'all would probably be kind like him as well.
I like to think so. But I think we're quite literally wrapping it up. So, I don't know if did you listen to any of the earlier parts? Did you have any questions or things you wanted to add to what we were talking about?
No, I just wanted to introduce myself and then follow you all and then do my own research and see you in the next stream. How about that?
Awesome. Great. Well, glad to have you. Thank you. And I don't know if you heard about the THORChain community. For people new to THORChain learning about it, there's a THORChain community Discord, which you can jump in and, basically start at zero if you want. And they can get you up to speed. But yeah, welcome. Thank you. Chris, I think that's great, man. I really appreciate your time. Hope everybody else does. You guys, if you like this space, please repost it. If you're listening to the recording, please repost it. Help get the message out there. I think the topic that we're going to, we did this space today just because of Chris's travel schedule, but we're still going to do one this Saturday. And I think that one, the topic will be about having a THORChain front end. I created some drama with the whole ADR20 and the Rujira compete and the terms in there, so we can talk about that. And then, yeah, obviously anything else, if you guys, if you're listening, you want to come and talk about it on Saturday, you're welcome to. But other than that, thanks for coming, everybody, and we'll be in touch. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much. Catch you later.
Take care, Kenton.